Aura. Is it an overused term? I would say so, but does it make it any less descriptive? It's a pretty good word. If you look at the gallery of heroes and all of their collective moments to show you why him or her is him or her, it needed to happen, right? They needed to show the world, the audience, and in universe why they could really hold the fort down and make sure that people understand that they are going to be protected when they're there. From a storytelling perspective, we need hype moments in Aura because without it, we're not going to see these heroes stand on business and save people's lives and even defeat villains when it matters most. They need to be taken seriously, and because of this, there are so many heroes and villains who have had these moments. If I really wanted to, this video could be 5 hours long because I think every single major character, that is, has had them. It's not unique to anybody, but it's a common trope that should be discussed, and to keep it very linear and succinct, I want to limit it to 3 very specific moments that I really enjoyed, and if you so choose, feel free to type your favorite hype moments in the comments down below. But yeah, without further ado, let's get straight into it. As many of you guys know who are fans of these discussions, you know that Spider-Man is one of the most disrespected characters on this channel because I keep talking about how he's recently been treated through like Dan Slott, through Nick Spencer, through Zeb Wells. He's a character who has been through a lot this past decade, 2 decades. He hasn't really had any real home runs in his main series, and that's normally what I talk about, but today this is his redemption because Peter Parker, you might not even be able to tell from how I talk about him, but he is one of my favorite heroes, specifically before One More Day. A lot of us know that before One More Day, Peter Parker was in his bag, but even afterwards, there are still some good moments. So the first one I want to talk about is in J. Michael Straczynski's run, which has a lot of Aura moments. If you look at TikTok, one of the more famous ones is your Spider-Man Act Like It, when he's fighting Morlun, he's putting on the suit. That was fire, but this Back in Black one, a lot of people know this one, where Peter Parker, he goes into the prison, right, Rikers, he unmasks, and he beats the brakes off of Kingpin. Now, you have to realize, Spider-Man, when he's not speaking, is very scary. I think a lot of us will agree to this. When he's not quipping, not the friendly neighborhood wall crawler, he just wants smoke. And in this period of time, it was during Civil War. He got completely unmasked through his own volition, by the way. He was pro-registration in the beginning, and that required all heroes on the side to forsake their secret identities, and the public knows who they are. Because of this, Kingpin decides to hire an assassin to kill Peter Parker when he's at home. The bullet goes off, and Peter gets out the way because of his spider sense, and it ends up hitting Aunt May. And this man has nothing to lose after this. So what he does is he goes on demon timing and he puts on his cloth black suit, which he had in the past made by Black Cat, but now it's just here to run the fade. And what happens here is Wilson Fisk is in Rikers, and instead of trying to sneak his way into the building, he just walked straight in, unmasks, and just throws the biggest haymakers that he can. It's a public execution of this man's ego in front of all of his men, in front of the people that hate him the most in that prison. It's a complete display showcase of humiliation. He beats him physically and psychologically. You can see after images with how fast this man is moving, and he threatened to shoot webs down his throat and kill him in an instant because, as he said, he made this very clear, if Aunt May dies, so does Kingpin. I don't know if he would actually go through with this because most Spider-Man storylines bring him back from the brink, but at that moment, he was feeling himself. He was about that life, and you can't really do anything about that. The aura was off the charts. The next moment that I really liked was the mind fight in Superior Spider-Man, with Superior Spider-Man, of course, being the storyline where Otto Octavius takes over the body of Peter Parker. And in this era, he's more calculating and more brutal because Doc Ock is behind the wheels. And in the climax of this arc, Otto's arrogance, I think, really gets the best of him, and it leads to the Goblin War escalating, becoming very much out of control. There's too much on his plate to carry, which makes him realize and to do the unthinkable, stepping aside, giving Peter free reins over his body. He is the true Superior Spider-Man. Peter was, it was never him. And in that moment, you could see this man lock in. Inside this fractured mental plane, he gets his body back, he reaches out, grabs control, and then he goes to resolve all the issues that Otto failed to stop, particularly with Green Goblin. And the coolest thing was seeing Norman realize that it was actually Peter behind the mask. He says, "It's you," and he's like, "The one and only." That's aura, bruh. Dan Slott, he's not one of my favorite Spider-Man writers by a long shot, but this moment right here is an all-timer. And on top of that, another one that I want to talk about, which, let's be honest, it's a big meme on TikTok where it's like Spider-Man in Spider-Man comics and then Spider-Man in Daredevil comics, very sunshine and rainbows, or not really that, but just not, he's more soy, let's be honest. And then Spider-Man in Daredevil comics, this man is a straight demon. And in this moment here, and I'm pretty sure issue 6 of Zdarsky's Daredevil run, volume 6, he confronts Daredevil because at this point, Daredevil was out of control. He was losing his mind. He began spiraling because he accidentally killed a man. He tried to restrain a criminal, but it just didn't work out in his favor. And what happened here is that Matt wasn't trying to reach out to anybody, but the superhero community, all of them were starting to notice, and Spider-Man was the person who went to him to talk and resolve all of these issues, right? Beforehand, we had like the Punisher, I'm pretty sure. Sometime then, there was a very big Punisher Daredevil ideology banter. All of those are always very fun. But in this moment right here, while he does say things like to cast the devil out, and God loves you, and stuff to reassure Matt that he will be okay after putting down the mask and the billy clubs. The great thing here that really makes Spider-Man scary, which isn't just Marco's design of Peter, which is obviously really cool, but it's Matt's monologue describing him as he picks up on the way he's acting, right? And here, oh my gosh, bro, this is so peak. Just to read a little bit of the excerpt of like Daredevil slowly realizing Spider-Man through his radar sense, it goes like this. My mind is racing, I don't know what to do, besides tackle the pain as he of course pours a bottle of alcohol. Meditate, heal like always, and then, wait, someone's here, impossibly quiet, the hand, of course being the ninja enemies that he fights. No, there's a heartbeat, a strong one, I could almost hear the muscles tighten, coiled with incredible strength and control. He's pure power, and he doesn't even know it. The best of us, as he says, Daredevil. That is the appearance of Spider-Man for the first time in this run. Oh my goodness, dude. This was one of the best post One More Day, I guess brand new day era of Spider-Man. I love whenever Chip Zdarsky writes Spider-Man. He even wrote him in his own series, Peter Parker Spectacular Spider-Man, where there's a really good standout Sandman and J. Jonah Jameson issue. Really good stuff. I really enjoyed it. I don't blame him in the slightest for not wanting to take any sort of mainstream Spider-Man role, but you can tell, even with his Batman work, he really is good with getting the voice of the characters. Even in Captain America #1, which just released, I'm pretty sure last week, he's got all of these characters down pat. He is a character writer. And whenever he's allowed just to talk and use interactions between some of his favorites, it's like a kid going through his toy box and playing make-believe. It's one of the best things you could see in comics. And Chip Zdarsky, I know a lot of people are on his tail for not having the best Batman run, but when this man hits, it's like magic. Now, we don't really talk about Star Wars all that often, but we have to remember, guys, Star Wars is also comics, right? There's the Marvel ones, the Disney ones, the Dark Horse ones, and in fact, while Legends continuity might be the best pick for like Star Wars in general, because it is peak, I'm not gonna front with you, but Disney canon for Darth Vader in particular is really good. Out of all of the OG characters, they do Darth Vader justice. The first moment I want to talk about is, I'm pretty sure it was from Kieran Gillen's run, but this is the gold standard of Vader aura moments. It's the single most quoted Vader line in all of comics. It isn't really just a hype line, it's a literal mission statement. So in this issue, if you guys don't know, Vader finds himself isolated, right? Surrounded by an army of rebel soldiers. He's deep behind enemy lines in rebel territories, completely alone, no backup, no escape route. How is he gonna get out of this, right? Well, he doesn't run, he doesn't hesitate, he stands his ground. One man in a black suit of armor that is constantly making him in pain, by the way, feeding his, I'm just gonna call it his rage receptors, and it just made him go dummy, bro. Everyone around him was like, you're surrounded, oh, I'm so scared. No, he was like, I'm surrounded. No, all I'm surrounded by is fear and dead men. One of the hardest lines in Star Wars history, I'm telling you. And he goes on to go crazy too, so it's like he's him. He can walk the walk, he can talk the talk. Pure aura at its finest. And then we have the moment where Vader shows his true self in Charles Soule's run. Now, in this moment, His entire soul, Anakin's soul, is laid bare, right? All of his most terrifying, introspective moments that there could possibly be in Star Wars media is right there. Because as he was bleeding a kyber crystal, of course, to make the saber red, bleeding a kyber crystal is putting all of your dark side energy into it and making it in pain, so that the blue, normal blue color, well, it's kind of like translucent, but the normal lack of color will turn red. That's the only way to make a red lightsaber in canon. And here, we see through a lot of Force-induced visions, a lot of the things that came from his past. He confronts it. Padme, Obi-Wan, the Jedi, even his younger self as Anakin. It's very deeply traumatizing, emotional, and I guess haunting for a lot of us Star Wars fans. There's a very big glimpse of what he could have become if he chose a different path. But it's not until, I'm pretty sure, around the end of the series where he fully steps into that vision and he sees a mirror of his true self. He looks like a Force maelstrom of just energy. He's just a silhouette of dark side power. He's able to use red Force lightning just like the sun. If you guys know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. Not trying to do that many spoilers, but watch the Clone Wars if you haven't. And he had these really cool Force lightsabers, and he was just tearing up every single Jedi in his path. Symbolically, it was him clawing away at any single way of redemption that he could have. He embraces the monster inside, all of the images of pain, of love lost. He obliterates that alongside the vision of Anakin Skywalker. He killed Anakin Skywalker. That name no longer has any meaning to him. And then finally, what should we talk about? There's so many good Disney versions. We have Rogue One, we have Rebels. You know what? Let me just talk about the Jedi games by EA with Cal Kestis. Now, in the first moments in Fallen Order, he makes his grand entrance, right? As the main character, Cal Kestis, you go through this entire game surviving and beating a bunch of Inquisitors, a bunch of Imperial forces, even some rogue, dark Jedi, gray Jedi, whoever, I don't know, whatever you want to say. Even like people from Dathomir. He was fighting Force magic, all that stuff, and he came out on top. And in the final battle against Trilla, who was a former Padawan, he was with it. He was holding his own, but at the end, Vader appears, strikes her down, and then the music fades. The boss music turned on, brother, and there was no way to defeat him. He was, for all intents and purposes, the unstoppable boss. There was nothing you could do to him. Every single strike you did, he would block it. He would throw giant generators at you. He would destroy the ground. He would toy with you, moving the ground in the air as you ran away, throwing metal floorboards at you, making sure that you could do nothing. And then when he finally caught up to you as you're running, he just threw you to the ground using, I'm pretty sure, Degem So. If that's the lightsaber style, let me know in the comments down below. But that's like the strong art, right? He's just hitting your defense over and over. And it wasn't until Seer came through that we actually survived. That was the end of the game, and what a moment that was. And then we have Jedi Survivor, where it's Vader versus Seer. And I love petty moments, right? Because Seer, she is an experienced Force user. She was a master. She knew what she was doing. And she was fighting Vader. It seemed like she had a chance, right? All of this back and forth, it seemed like a hard-fought battle. But then there's this one moment where you realize Vader was playing this entire time, where he was in a saber lock. And then he slowly puts his saber away just to put his hand out to keep that stuff locked with the Force. This man had a Force barrier, and he did it in the most nonchalant Duke Dennis way possible. What? Is this legal? I'm gonna give you a picture. Who do you think this could be in this very ambiguous looking cloak? Yeah, it's a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle. This is going to be, I can't say spoiler free. This is gonna have a lot of spoilers, okay? This is gonna be like the one segment where I actually go through spoilers. So if you don't want to see any of this, feel free to click around on the timestamp down below if needed. There is a video game that is going to be made on this, but will it ever come out? I couldn't tell you, but yeah. Who would you think? Probably Leonardo, right? But what makes this so awful, I just made a new word, is that it's Michelangelo, the funniest, the most unserious of all the turtles. But he's also the turtle that has been said before in Master Splinter to have the most raw potential, kind of like a Damian Wayne situation, if we're going to compare the TMNT to the Robins, right? The youngest, but also low-key, he does got that. But yeah, in this story, it's called, as a lot of you might know, if you're in the comic book space at all, The Last Ronin, one of the biggest comics of the past, like, I don't know, 5-10 years. This thing blew up. Like, when I'm telling you that this became mainstream, it did. There is no lies, but instead of making it 3 moments, this entire segment is just going to be about Michelangelo in The Last Ronin. So the beginning, what's really cool is that it's a ghost who returns to New York. He breaks into Hiroto's city. Now, if you don't know who Hiroto is, he is the descendant of Shredder. I'm not going to tell you how that happened or who he's related to. That's for you to discover once you read the book, but it's pretty obvious, honestly. New York City at this point is completely taken over by this guy. It's 2040 and it's under his control, completely choked into submission. No one could do anything. Cameras in every street corner, hover drones patrolling the sky, foot soldiers enforcing order through fear. Is literally a totalitarian state. It's kind of like Big Brother, you know, 1984, and in this dystopian future, the silence is finally broken with one single spark. Michelangelo comes back, he returns from exile, no announcement at all. This man is just locked in on his mission. He disables all the security systems, blows out all the key security nodes, and he begins taking down and tearing apart the middle district, causing a lot of chaos, but I think with a lot of surgical precision. He's not doing things very randomly. He's sending a message, he's killing foot soldiers, destroying their vehicles, and he pushed his way layer by layer to the armored city that Hiroto made, like a force of nature. He mobilizes an entire army against him, almost certain that he will crush this quote-unquote relic of the past. But Mikey, he just keeps pushing. The aura about all of this is that he doesn't ask for any attention, he just takes all of it. One turtle survived in this scenario, and he's coming. You better prepare because this man is out for blood. In the storyline, every single other turtle died by Shredder, quote unquote, died by Shredder's hand, and it's up to Mikey to bring back a familiar symbol, to rise it back out from the grave. He's the last one left. He better make it count. And later on, of course, in the back half of the series, he fights him face to face like a man. And what's really cool is that he challenges Hiroto directly, and it's like a battle of legacy, really. The youngest coming out on top, trying to forge the future in the way that they feel is best fit for their city. And after taking down Baxter Stockman, Michelangelo, he has a very clear path. No more stealth, no more stalling, he just has to end it. He cuts through all of the final defenses and then casts a shadow on the entire city. And what follows isn't exactly a sneak attack at all. It's just a confrontation that at this point in universe was decades in the making. The problem is that Hiroto, he has a very high-tech armor. He's very cruel, cold, calculated, diluted with power, and his armor in and of itself, 2 blades as you might expect with the Shredder motif, and it's self-healing. So this man had a battle on his hands, and it's nearly invulnerable too, so he had to throw him through windows, fight across rooftops, tumble down all of these levels from his tower, Hiroto Tower, through steel upon steel with fire on the walls. And in a final attack, you see him articulate every single move that he has to do to not only defeat Shredder, but to also give honor to all of his fallen brothers, right? Sneaking up behind him with a smoke bomb, stabbing his hand, kind of like Raphael, I guess, slicing his torso with a katana like Leonardo, and even hitting him with a staff like Donatello. Every move, every breath is legacy that was just turned into violence. The aura that comes from this isn't exactly the flashy choreography, I think it's the emotional weight with every hit he does. Even when he's brutally injured, he's still fighting the good fight, and at the end here, very big spoiler, they both end up dying, but only one of them matters, right? He makes sure that Hiroto dies no matter what the cost is. He smashes him in the face with his nunchucks, there's a brutal clash, and with this final standoff where there's like, I'm pretty sure stormy skies if I remember correctly, Mikey's body is failing, he's been stabbed, and Hiroto, he activates his defense system. He has this huge electrical shock that was meant to kill them both. And it leads to an explosion that tears up the dam, and it leads to both of their bodies just flying apart. And when the water settles, while Hiroto is dead, Michelangelo survives. He is dying, but he lives long enough to deliver one final line to Casey Marie, to tell April that he not only is proud, but to die on his own terms, surrounded by love, unlike the man he just killed. He is talking big, but he did win. Let him talk, bro. This is basically immortality, right? He redefines what victory is. While he might have died, he rejoins his family, and the world now gets a new beginning. You know, I'm not always topically relevant, but today I am. This is gonna date this video so hard, but we are going to be talking about what the kids call Lex Luthor. Yes, Lex my goat. Now, before I even get started, are you guys gonna see Superman this weekend? That's my goal. This movie, my heart is pounding, bro. I need this movie to be good, and from all the early screenings and all of the early reviews, it seems like we're going well. Please, 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 I hope I love this movie. I think I will because I've read a lot of the Superman material that this movie is inspired by, and David Cornsweet and Nicholas Hoult and Rachel Brosnahan, all of them, the main three leads, seem very charismatic. They seem like they have all of these characters, at least from an acting perspective. They have them on lock. Not exactly writing because we don't know that so far, but from what I've seen, it seems well. And to keep the Superman train rolling, 2025, this movie, please. Let's talk about this one scene that's got everybody on social media just glazing. We're doing a bit too much, but I can't blame you because this is the first live action movie version of Lex that has a lot of aura. And in this scene, when he infiltrates the Fortress of Solitude and he has the engineer just fighting the Superman robots while he's just walking, this man's just strutting like a maniac. He just takes off his glasses, lets the engineer throw her buzzsaw nanotech into the Superman robot, lets all of them sparks fly onto his head. He doesn't care, and he just takes off those shades to tell all of you guys that he never flinched a bit. You see his eyes? They are wide open. Nothing is going to change from that. Do you guys think he's going to be creating Bizarro? I don't know. I know he came to the Fortress of Solitude. If my birthright reading knowledge is coming up correctly, he's trying to flanderize Superman's name with all the Kryptonian tech to make it seem like he is an invader, blah, 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 blah. All that stuff. It should be really fun. It's a great book. As the hater that he is, he should be on that timing, so I'm grateful to see that. But you never really know what he's trying to do. He's always 5 steps ahead. We see all of the crazy chemical concoctions that he's making, finding out what kryptonite is, trying to create all of these weird aliens with new abilities, all of these weird laboratory experiments while also looking fresh as hell. I'm trying to be as normal as possible. This might be the most handsome Lex Luthor of all time, bro. This man will stare at you with his bright blue eyes, no pause, and you will feel the aura just flowing right to you. If you are a Lex Luthor employee, you'll know that you'll have to get your butt on a chair and start working on the computer, okay? Superman needs to take an L and I need to see it. I have to cheer for it too, because I am my own cheerleader, okay? You gotta set all of this up for me, and no one's gonna look at me like a weirdo. Everyone's going to stare at me with awe because everyone here is intellectuals that know that I know rocket science and more. So y'all gotta get back to work. And did I forget to mention that this man is petty in the best way possible? This man can effortlessly cure cancer. Do you know how much points that he gets just from that? He is walking around to cure said deadly illnesses. He probably has so many nuclear codes in his pockets that he doesn't know what to do with them. And the funny thing is that he could, in effect, cure his sister of cancer, right? And she had this tumor and she was, for lack of a better word, a vegetable. And he shot this one needle and in 10 seconds, maybe 5, she went back to normal. And then right after that, he injected her back with cancer. What demon is this, bro? Lex Luthor said, Lex giveth and Lex can taketh away. Oh my goodness. And he didn't care. Superboy was rocking him and he still didn't care. He wasn't going to reverse what he just did. He was clip farming and there was nothing we could do about it because he knew the superheroes, especially Superboy, wasn't going to kill him, especially when he was the only person in the vicinity or anybody at all on the planet that could naturally, through science, cure cancer. And then the last one that I want to talk about that's really cool is Forever Evil. Now, Forever Evil is probably the best event in the New 52. Really good, and it saw the heroes getting taken off the table and the crime syndicate just taking their place on Earth, and the villains now had to defeat them. If you played Lego DC Supervillains, you know the plot of this comic, and the fact that that game took this storyline to use is elite ball knowledge, I'm not gonna lie. But, right, everything is broken now, and a new resistance has to come together by Lex Luthor. And he doesn't really beg the heroes to return, he doesn't wait for them, he doesn't do anything of the sort. He just forms his own team of heavy hitters with the Bizarro that he made, Black Adam, Sinestro, Deathstroke, and a bunch of other killers. Monsters, even despots, all of them just came together for one common goal. If there was anything to make all of the irrational criminal minds to come together, it's this. He strategizes, he leads, he wins. He has an open space where his head goes because he wants you to see who's running your fade. He doesn't have anything to hide. If you try to shoot him on the head, Guess what? He had a force field there the entire time. He kills Atomica, he just stomps on her, he manipulates a bunch of events so that he will lead the final blow on Alexander Luthor, who, if you don't know, is the Shazam of Earth 3, who also happens to be the Lex Luthor of that universe. He's glorious, and he actually, at the end of this, he's like, I want to join the Justice League. And no one can really decline him. He does see a better way, but it really is just domination through competence. He's such a brilliant guy, able to take down the Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, Flash, Green Lantern of this other world, that when gods fail, this man in a suit could just rise up and win. He was meant to be on the Justice League, maybe even far more than Batman ever did. And I say that as a Batman superfan, a Batman glazer. And speaking of Batman, okay, let me stop. I'm gonna hold that card for later, but yes. Lex Luthor, if I see any disrespect on his name, I am probably going to call you out unless it's a joke. Probably not. We're pretty nice here, but yeah. He thinks himself the savior of mankind, and from everything I've seen, he could handle it even though the time he did become president was kinda whack. Sometimes fiction does resemble reality for better and for worse. Who is the best X-Men of all time? It's not Wolverine, it's Cyclops. If you watched X-Men 97, you would know, do your homework, but Scott. The thing about him is that a lot of his best moments are from his optic blast, if that makes any sense, because his power is really underrated. So the first moment, actually the first two moments, because let's be honest, Astonishing X-Men by Joss Whedon is really good. The first one that I really liked was with the Sentinels, right? The Sentinels attacked Xavier's mansion. Everybody was caught off guard. Cyclops is over here trying to shoot his little beams, and the Sentinel just backhanded this man, and that made him supremely angry, right? He told everybody to back away and that he wanted this thing off his lawn. And the entire screen, or piece of paper, it turned red. The silhouettes of Wolverine and Colossus and Cyclops were there on top of a red background. This thing was almost omnidirectional. It was kind of in a cone, but when we come back, we see that the entire forest is just scorched. It disintegrated an entire area of trees. That's how powerful this thing is. I think if people really wanted to, like the writers are backing it, they could make this man an Omega level mutant just based on the utility and power Scott could train and develop his optic blasts. Furthermore, there's this one moment that I really liked where Cyclops escapes, right? He suppressed his powers and he got shot, I'm pretty sure. The Break World, their strike force, they captured him after they invaded the X-Men's base, and everyone was cut off. Emma was cut off for her psychic abilities, quote unquote. We figure out that's not the truth later on, but from the X-Men's perspective, and to a lot of people, Cyclops' supposed like linchpin of the entire mission was off the board, and the team itself was scattered. But there was one thing the Break World and the aliens, quote unquote, messed up in, is that they underestimated my GOAT Scott Summers, bro. And while it seemed like he was out for the count, his bodily functions and his vitals were very low, his powers seemed non-existent. But you have to remember, he has no visor, and just like that, he used his abilities to blow a giant hole. Not only the facility that he was kept in, and knocking out the alien that was his captor, this man had a huge smile on his face as he created a Minecraft beacon. This man had a laser up in the sky to show the X-Men that he was here. And the cherry on top is that at the end of this, he said his iconic line, "To me, my X-Men." This man was spazzing, bro. And to give a little insight into some of the newer comics by Jed MacKay, because Jed MacKay is the recent writer of X-Men, the main title that is, I'm gonna read you a little excerpt, okay? Here we go. So Cyclops says, "The villainy you teach me, I will execute, and it shall go hard. But I will better the instruction." And the brother over here, we're gonna call him Government Stooge number 2. Let's call him that. Actually, he's just a federal agent. Let me stop. But yeah, he's like this. "You get hit on the head in Greymalkin Summers, you're blabbering." And Scott's like, "You're not listening," because he was quoting something. "The attack on Greymalkin, you taught us that villainy. Greymalkin took one of ours and we took him back." And brother's like, "You're not the US government, Summers. You can't act as if you were." Which, you know, I guess fair enough. And he's like this, "Says who? And now you've come for all of us." And he looks at his phone. He's like, "You burnt the whole server facility." And then he cuts him off saying, "So you've heard about Chicago. Wait until you hear about Springfield." And he's like, "You sent your team out while you flapped your jaw at me." And he's like, "My team? They're all here in the factory. Any difficulties that ONE might be having certainly have nothing to do with the X-Men." And he's like, don't lie to me, Summers. And he's like, I told you that I was past provoked. None of your people will be killed, but the destruction of material will be astronomical. I am making a point, and my agents will continue to make a point until you and your men have left Alaska. Every minute you stay here, more of OEN's operating budget is being eaten up with repair and resupply. More of OEN's capabilities to operate effectively will be eliminated. This is what it looks like when you push me. Then he retaliates and he's like, call them off, Summers. No, I'm fighting for my place in the world for my species. He says, nice for you, call them off or you won't live to see it. You just declared war. Bro forgot Scott Summers steps big because he's like, I don't think you're hearing me. This isn't a war. Not a hot one at any rate. MAD, you remember that? Mutually assured destruction. That's what it means if the X-Men and the federal government go to war. Real war. Let me spell it out for you. If I am murdered by a federal agent or any other projection of governmental force, then important sections of Washington, D.C. will very shortly cease to exist. You're bluffing. Then we get this crazy close-up and he's like, I'm not. You think I didn't plan for this? I don't have any nuclear weapons, but I do have mutants. How much damage would Juggernaut do if it dropped from orbit? Or if Zorn just took off his helmet and exposed the star that makes up his head? If they do that, then that's it for mutants. It would be open season. You'd be extinct in a year. Maybe if you could organize a response without a functioning government, how long until states begin to secede before foreign powers come sniffing around landing troops to render emergency aid and never leaving? But hey, like you said, I won't be around to see it. You'd kill all those people? This is how brinkmanship works. I'm making your case for you so you can take it back to your bosses and tell them that no matter how much they want to kill me, and I know they do as he presses his gun against his forehead, that it's not worth it. Because while I've been ready to die for the mutant cause ever since I was 14, and I have done so several times, here's the long and short of it with the phoenix in his eyes. If any of you have me murdered, then my wife will know and she will grieve. And then the Phoenix will return to Earth for vengeance, and I don't know if the planet could survive that. You have to remember the Phoenix, she is a casual planet buster. So yes, I will threaten to destroy every institution of this nation, if that's what it takes to get you to listen to me, because I am looking out for you. All of you. Oh my, Scott is just him, bro. Is there anything else to say other than Scott is just him? I'm just going to leave it at that. One of, if not the best character in comics to give a speech, bar none. One of my favorite characters that I think doesn't get the respect she deserves, probably because comics and just heroes in and of itself is just a male-dominated field, is Wonder Woman. And to all the people who say that she doesn't belong on the Mount Rushmore of superheroes, I'm going to backhand you. That's a joke. But there is no reason for people to be saying this. She has done way too much for the world and her impact for people to be talking this nonsense. Yes, you might like other characters more than her, doesn't mean she doesn't deserve to be on there. Yes, you may have your personal top 4, but that doesn't mean you get to discount her position on that big 4 category. Stop playing with Diana like that, please. But anyways, to talk about my favorite moments, what I really like about them is that 2 out of the 3 of them in my head, at least the ones that I want to talk about at the moment, that might change, but 2 of them have a very compassionate moment at the end of it that makes everything worthwhile. I was going to say that her compassion is better than other characters like Batman or Superman, but I kind of thought about it and I was like, wait, they all are compassionate, but in different ways. It's like having different flavors, I guess, like each and every one of them have different viewpoints on what justice is as well, right? So their way about going about it is very unique, which is very interesting because it's all about the same baseline topic. The first one is from the new 52 Wonder Woman series, and I have gone on record saying that this was a very rough era for Wonder Woman, not from a writing standpoint per se, but from a conceptual standpoint, because a lot of the ideas were very rough, right? And because of that, no amount of writing would save certain ideas. The reproduction of Amazons from the new 52, I am talking about you. But in this story, and what makes a lot of this a lot better, is that Rebirth by Greg Rucka, when we're in that Rebirth era, the best thing coming out of DC Rebirth. Some of you will get that reference. But from that run, Rucka retconned the New 52, but he made it so that everything that happened will have emotional resonance. Everything there will be impactful, but the events itself was not canon. All of it was mental mind games, some sort of illusion that was placed into her head. She never went back to Themyscira. All of that was in her head. There was these brief in and out moments where she would just lose consciousness and she would think that she was having her own adventure. And this gave Rucka a lot of cool opportunities for future storylines, but it also validated all the stuff that happened previously. It's a way of having your cake and eating it too, because you can change all the past while also making it so that this is actually canon and something that happened, just that it happened in her head. But now, all of that tangent aside, Wonder Woman vs. Hades in the second volume of this run is really good by Brian Azzarello. In the bowels of hell, to kind of set this up a bit, surrounded by glowing souls of the dead, Wonder Woman walks to the altar, right? Besides Hades, and Hades, of course, being the god of the underworld, and he wants Wonder Woman to love him, and he's trying to find strategies, and she does say that she loves him, but being very paranoid, because why wouldn't he demands proof. So he made her a ring, and he also gave her a little knot hanging from a pole. And what does that usually mean? Well, it's a noose, right? And he says this: put it around your neck. If your love is true, it will bind. If it's false, it will hang you. Because this noose is actually made out of the lasso of truth. And Diana, being the aura farmer that she is, she doesn't hesitate. She wraps it around her neck, and then to everybody's shock, the lasso glows, and she does love him. But here's the twist, the compassionate thing that I was talking about. She says, I love you like I love everyone. This is a key part to Diana's character that even maintained itself in the New 52. And it's really cool, something that might have been seen by others, especially other warriors like the God of War and stuff like that, during the very Game of Thrones-like vibes of Wonder Woman New 52. It was actually a strength. Her compassion formed an armor around her that protected her. And Hades, being very furious, he released the entire pits of hell on her, bro. Blood rivers, demonic forces, I don't know, probably just a bunch of random ghosts that you would see in a blockbuster film. All of that was going for her, but the cool thing is that she brought Eros's pistols, right? And these pistols, what's really cool about them is that they are magical and it loads a bullet with love. If you get shot by it, you are, in all effect, in love. And after defeating all of Hades' forces and having this sort of truce, and she's about to like walk away, she turns back around and shoots Hades while he's looking at a mirror in a reflection. So now Hades has love for himself. That is a really cool way to end off that story, and what a positive and just cool mic drop to leave it on, right? Aura through compassion is one of the coolest things you could possibly have, and I believe it's there in spades in this arc. Another one of my favorite moments happens in the very beginning of Greg Rucka's first run with Wonder Woman, and that was her fight with Medusa, the Gorgon herself. And the idea with her, obviously, is that she has a deadly gaze, and if you look at her eyes, she can turn you into stone. And Medusa was ready to display all of this on live TV, right? To turn the entire world into a garden of statues. Diana really had no time, no backup, no tricks. So she walks straight into the arena, armed with her axe, her sword, and her shield, and her, I guess, unbreakable will. Might as well make her a Green Lantern at this point. And she's like, you know what? I know you have an ability that's very hypnotizing that can make people open their eyes so that they can see you. I'm just gonna cut off one of your snake hairs and spit that venom into my eye, blind myself, and then chop your head off. How about that? Like, that is next level baller. No one else is moving like Diana. I have never seen anybody else on that scale do that to save the entire planet. I don't know if anyone else would also be able to. She is in a very good hotspot when it comes to power, being very powerful, but also not too powerful to not be harmed by the venom. She's in agony, she's blind, she fights on by sound, by instinct, by pure Amazonian training. She gets the final swing and saves the world. No one else should have to pay that price. Might as well just be me. I'm already in the thick of it, might as well go all the way through. Full send it. And my final moment that I really love is another one of compassion, and this happens in, I'm pretty sure it's the second arc after the circle, in Gail Simone's run. Somebody feel free to fact check me, but I'm going to read a bit of an excerpt so you guys know what's going on and so you understand the gravity of what happened here and how even rookie Green Lanterns can become very corrupted by power, and they could feel like this is the right way to go. They feel like since they have the will and I guess the quote-unquote blessing of the Guardians to operate a ring, their judgment should be sound, but not exactly, not always. So what happens here? Let's read it. This is the Khund home planet lantern. It belongs to the Khund. So you can see this man is on a Sinestro type beat, trying to bring order through very violent means. And then we go into her inner dialogue, and she's like, that he can be manipulated, that he can be shattered. And she just breaks a lantern construct just like that. Granted, he's not the most powerful lantern, but doing it that effortlessly is actually kind of crazy. And she's like, I've won the war, but I'm in danger of losing the peace. Take my hand, lantern, it is open, will you fill it with your own? And bro just starts straight tweaking. This man starts wiling, creating a giant glove with his ring, and just decks her in the face twice, 3 times, and she just takes it. Ally to murderers, collaborator to genocide. Fall, friend to demons, fall. And he's just winded, he keeps punching, but she would not fight back. He's out of breath, and he says fall very gently. And then we have this just silent couple of panels that I love, where she just stares at him, he stares back, and she lays out her hand. I just love Wonder Woman, bro. She's just for the people. If we go back to Earth, she is an ambassador from Themyscira. She goes to underprivileged areas where youth are struggling and starving. She feeds them, she helps them out. She gives them clothes, water. She does all of these efforts to help people in need. That's why she's so special, and that's what makes it really cool. She has 2 shifting modes, one that's very compassionate and one that's about the smoke, and the fact that we could feel her presence no matter which one she alternates from is actually insane. Peak character writing. This might be glazed, but Doctor Doom is probably one of, if not the best villain in fiction. If not that, then at least in the Marvel Universe. These 3 moments, I don't know, I just get chills whenever Doctor Doom does anything. If he steps like 2 centimeters to the left, I will be cheering. Does that make me lesser of a man? Probably, but these 3 moments really showcase why Doctor Doom is just that guy. So the first one, from my recollection, because I've read this a long time ago, this is John Byrne's Fantastic Four. And in this, there was this arc from like 1985-ish where Doctor Doom escaped hell, right? He had a near-death encounter. Doctor Doom's soul was eventually dragged into hell by Mephisto himself, as you might expect. Him and Mephisto, there's a really intriguing back and forth that they built up for many years. And they really just don't like each other. Doctor Doom has always been trying to get his mother's soul from Mephisto, but it just never worked, always out of his grasp. In this realm, as you might expect, he becomes a prisoner, stripped of his armor, tortured, humiliated, everything you think Doom could never experience, it happened. But what was the one thing Mephisto could never count on? Doom breaking. When has he ever broke? He always stayed hard. I was going to say pause, but let me just say David Goggins instead. Anyways, he spends his time in the underworld doing what you might expect, calculating, learning how things work down here, and of course resisting as much as he can. All the mental fatigue that he would have, he just built up his own psychological barrier. Every single time the damned tried to come to ruin his pride, he just made his pride stronger. That pride became his weapon, and through all of this science and dark sorcery and just sheer force of will, he outsmarts hell. He creates a foolproof construction plan, and you might think it's very detailed, but it was just him being like, nah, I'd win. He walks out on his own terms after studying all of it and finding the best way to use all of his tools. He just walks out. He's like that. On top of that, we have one of, if not the biggest Doctor Doom moments, and it's one of the famous ones that you always see on social media. The ones that fans who've read a lot of Doctor Doom probably don't point out as much because there are a lot more other ones. But all of the people who are very intermediate in their superhero knowledge, they bring this one up a lot because, of course, the hype that Avengers Secret Wars is bringing out and all that stuff. People are on the ball with this. Now, in this moment, Doctor Doom, he becomes a god, as you might expect, through the power of the Beyonders, cosmic beings beyond normal comprehension. and he creates his own battle world. Of course, battle world being shattered universes brought together in this very weird patchwork, and he rules there as a god. And he's draped in white. The drip is fire. We see the fit, Doom. No one's questioning you. And from here, he has a lot of cool multiversal, let's just say peers. He has an army of Thors who serve as his police force. Doctor Strange is his sheriff. Reed Richards' family is now his family. He took them, and they can't escape. This is the moment when Doom just ascended to another level. Of course, not even mentioning his bouts with Thanos. Of course, Thanos calling him a false god, and us thinking there was going to be this huge, long, drawn-out, epic battle. But no, that doesn't happen. He just rips out his spine and says that appears untrue. No build-up, just out of nowhere. One of the main bad guys of Marvel, a villain who's taken up multiple sagas in 616 main continuity, was taken out just like that. He's little fish now. Doom is on a whole nother level. And before all of this, to kind of draw ourselves back to a previous moment that I should have covered, it's Doctor Doom in Jonathan Hickman's new Avengers run, and he's confronting the Beyonders, and this is really cool. There's this rift in space, and to kind of give you a little bit of a background, this is them trying to stop the incursions, right? Incursions, of course, are planets and universes coming together and destroying themselves. We are a literate bunch, so we might as well read. We are beyond, dreamers, destroyers, all of reality. Our whim, who dares stand before us? I, Doom. And then Brother's like, and what is this Doom? Some paltry man playing something more than what he is? And he's like, fools, I am Doom the Destroyer. I have broken worlds to taunt you. I've shattered universes to mock you. This man has bars. Call up Etrigan. And he says, I have taken what is yours and made it mine. Face me at your own peril, if you dare face me at all. Doom, for the short life left of everything, men and women will weep at the stories of what was done to you here this day, which is crazy talk. I have never heard cosmic beings talk so gangster in my life. And I say, no one will ever hear the word Beyonder ever again, for I will erase your name from history. And he drops his entire cargo box filled with molecule men that will be used as reality warping bombs on them. Isn't that a crazy plan? And Doom pulls it off without a worry. You would think this man knows the meaning of life definitively. He probably does. He seems so assured of himself. The ego on Doom is literally unmatched. He would be like completely out of his depth trying to recreate multiverses, and he'll act like it's spreading butter on toast. What a guy. Shifting our attention to a character that is foundationally built on aura, and I think, if I'm going to be honest, is 90% aura, 10% writing, specifically in the beginning half of this run. It's about Spawn. Now, Spawn in general, I've gone on saying before, while he is cool, and the rule of cool is something that can't really be understated, because a character just being cool and talking cool is going to carry, and Spawn from the animated series is actually a really good character. Keith David as well just breathes so much life into him. But if you look at the cape in and of itself, it's just aura farming. He doesn't have to do much. All he has to do is stand in a location, and the artist or the animator can do whatever they want to move the cape and chains all over the place. So it seems like he's doing more than he actually is. But to get to the moments in and of itself, the first one, I guess, is when he just spawned, right? So what he did, of course, is he got brought to hell and he became a servant for Hell's army, right? A hell spawn. But how did this happen? What was the background deal? Well, he was murdered by his own government. He was a Black Ops soldier, a mercenary, and he made a bunch of deals, and eventually that just bit him back, right? He was betrayed by those he once trusted and left for dead, but he made a deal with the demon Malbosia to return to Earth. But of course, as you might expect, any deal that happens in hell is usually twisted. He returned scarred, amnesiac, and wrapped in a living necroplasm. Thankfully, he didn't really have that many rules in the beginning other than the fact that he had necroplasm, and if he used too much of it, he would get sent straight back to hell. And you don't really want that. He was very rebellious and against traditional rules. He never really fell in line. He doesn't blindly serve anybody. He begins kind of like hunting down monsters that hell wants him to protect, and he breaks every expectation that the demons really had for him. And within kind of a few weeks, he becomes a huge problem, not just for the humans and the demons, but like for heaven and hell alike. And the key moment that was really cool is when Spawn reclaims fragments of his memory and then rips apart a group of criminals in the alleyway, like with his cape and his chains and stuff like that. And he stretches forward and contorts and like towers over them. It's just really cool. Obviously something that Spawn has going for it, and it always had, was the art. But there was this one line that stuck with me. I don't know if this is verbatim how it went, but I remembered him looking somewhere. I'm pretty sure it was like the direction of hell. And he was like, "You sent the wrong soldier." And that was just, ooh, we like that. He was a rogue element at that point. A living, unkillable machine that was within a concrete ecosystem. Nothing could hold him down, except for himself, really, if he cut a little bit too loose. And then another moment was with the Redeemer. I'm pretty sure this was in Greg Capullo's run, one of the famous Batman artists. He got his big break on Spawn. And in this, you realize that the Redeemer is Heaven's equivalent to a Hellspawn. Spawn's opposite, basically. It's the ultimate counterforce to Al Simmons in a way, right? A glowing, angelic warrior, burning with divine energy. He believes he's completely unbeatable, chosen, righteous. What can you really do? Well, I guess you can just tear him apart in a very cinematic sequence, because at that time he was at his peaketh. Spawn not only holds his ground against a literal archangel, but defeats him on Earth on his own terms in an alleyway that serves kind of as like a sanctuary. His wings are shredded, his armor is torn, and Spawn doesn't just win, he humiliates a soldier of heaven of divine purpose. A being like that is left broken and doubting. At that point, he's literally just a god killer in the making, and then we have the moment where Spawn becomes king, a throne in hell. A literal culmination of decades, I'm pretty sure, of build-up. I'm acting like I'm a big fan of Spawn. I never really was, but you know, this is the bit, and Spawn in and of itself, I would be excited just by looking at the splash pages of this book. Look at this, but Al Simmons, unlike any ruler before him, he sits on the throne without total contempt. His court, I guess, if I'm gonna call it that, is filled with souls that expected a tyrant, but instead what they got was a revolutionary. He doesn't really rule through like fear and fire. He refuses to lead the way they expect. He keeps the damned trapped in limbo, refusing to let them rise or even fall. He breaks that cycle of damnation. He shuts hell down. The armies, the Dark Crown, all of it is his, but Spawn doesn't exactly take any joy in it. He doesn't even want it, really. He rules because no one else should. And that's what makes it terrifying, and that's what gives him such a presence. He's willing to make the tough calls, to do things other people won't, to save the most lives. Yes, he might be an anti-hero, but at this moment right here, he was very noble, very selfless, and out of an anti-hero, that is very rare to see on such a large magnitude. Would an anti-hero usually do that? I don't know. Usually they have little selfish tendencies, but yeah, at this moment, he really ascended to mythic status of aura farming. And I couldn't be more prouder because I'm trying to look at more splash pages, you feel me? Okay, I can't help it. This is oh my gosh. I can now talk about Batman. I went through how many characters before I talked about Batman? I have a problem. Okay, now we can talk about my Bat Goat. Finally. Now, Batman, who should I talk about? I think Grant Morrison might be one of the best Batman writers in terms of just having a lot of moments stacked on top of each other, especially in his JLA and his Batman run. Those two runs are really good at getting down the fundamentals of why this man has so much aura, okay? He is the originator, in my opinion, I might be a bit delusional, of we see the fit, Bruce, but yeah, we might be a bit delusional, but either way. The first moment is from Batman RIP, and it's really, is this even human? I don't know, I guess it is, but what happens here is Batman is fighting the Black Glove, and all of the like Zern R shenanigans happened before this. I have a video on the dark side of heroes where I talk about alternate variations of our favorite characters, but their dark transformation, and I go more in depth on the storyline there, all the back stuff there. But now this is the latter half. I guess I'm giving you the full crash course on Batman RIP, but it's one of my favorite storylines, so I'm not complaining. But what happens here is that after all of this stuff happens and Bruce actually gets captured by the Black Glove and the Joker, he has to deal with a lot of stuff. He gets drugged by the Joker, right, by multiple stuff. Now he's not just one. He gets put in a coffin, buried like 6-7 feet underground. He's in a straitjacket, many, maybe hours, I guess even days without sleep. So this man is losing it. The Zernar personality, that backup, that was the only thing keeping him a streamlined bullet, okay? That's why he was able to go so hard for as long as he did without resting. And I'm sure a little bit of that psychology is seeped within the normal Batman Bruce Wayne duality. But yeah, this man is running off of fumes, and as Batman usually does, he's always analyzing. 206 bones, 5 major organs, 60,000 miles of blood vessels. All it takes is time. Days, months, years spent memorizing the finite ways there are to hurt and break a man. Preparing for all of them, I've escaped from every conceivable death trap. 10 times, a dozen times. I can slow my breathing and metabolism to control panic and conserve air. Straitjacket's kindergarten, locks 2, bench pressing a coffin lid through 600 pounds of loose soil that's filling your mouth, crushing your lungs flat and shredding your dehydrated muscles. That's harder. And then he breaks out, and look at this image, bro. Look at the aura. But far from impossible. Grant Morrison just gets it. I know a lot of people like to talk about Bat God, but Grant Morrison is one of the only people, maybe Mark Waid and I guess Scott Snyder, to pull it off to perfection. It gives Batman a really cool underdog persona while making it so every moment that he bounces back, it feels mythical, like a giant moment happening that we're here just to witness. A next moment that's kind of like this that I would say is another birth of the Bat God moment is in JLA number 3, also by Grant Morrison, and he's fighting the Hyper Clan. And this is a big spoiler for the first arc of JLA, but the Hyper Clan are a bunch of aliens that come from space who try to make or be better than the JLA, right? They beat them up, take over their position, and they push themselves through marketing, right? What else would you do? As the new saviors of Earth. And what Batman figures out is, well, let the scene explain itself. I don't know how you managed to be immortal, but we are going to take our time to tear you apart, little man, cell by cell. I hope you're ready. And then she says, any last words? And he's like, one or two. Super strength, flight, invulnerability, shape-shifting, mind control, you're Martians, aren't you? And when you brought down my aircraft, you didn't dare search the wreckage because of the one thing which robs your people of their powers. Fire. This man has the most devious grin on his face when he holds a matchstick. I don't know, look at the box of matches in his hands, and he's like, that's a very interesting theory. Are you going to stop us with one tiny flame? Look how scared she looks. She is scared for her life. You can't harm us with that. Maybe you're right. And he just flicks it. And if you didn't pay attention, he set up an entire circle of gasoline. And they start screaming no. They can bench press 100+ tons, and Batman got them screaming and like, somebody do something. And he's like, ready when you are, just cracking his knuckles. Look at, dude. This was the moment where I think Batman really clicked for me on the Justice League. In terms of comics, that is, because of the TV shows, they really got that down pat. Kevin Conroy, one of my favorite, if not my favorite Batman there is, and Bruce Timm and the gang that really knew how to play to everybody's strengths. Batman, in that situation where he's surrounded by a bunch of gods, he really does stand out. But right here, I really fell in love with the idea of Batman being a big player on the JL and not just a reserve part-time member. And finally, we have one moment from Scott Snyder where he's captured by the Court of Owls, right? A secret society that ruled Gotham from the shadows for centuries underneath the giant maze beneath the city, and it's designed to psychologically break anybody who's in there. And I have never seen Batman crack quite like this. He spends days in the dark, he's hallucinating, he's drugged, he talks to ghosts, he sees his parents who eventually just turn into a bunch of owls that claw him. He drinks water because that's the only source that he can out of this little fountain with an owl on it, a giant one. But he knows that it's been dipped in drugs, but he has to do it. He's starved, he's broken, he's injured. And then they send the Talon, right? The court sends their unkillable assassin. He stabs him in the back, and he just beats him up over and over. It's depressing, it's sad. But Bruce, in this moment of despair, of sadness, of actually being content, this is going to be his final moments in life, and he's fine with that. But then he looks over to the wall, and this wall has a bunch of pictures of people that died in this labyrinth. And one of them was a picture of one of his ancestors, of Alan Wayne. But either way, that was the adrenaline that he needed. He broke out like a beast, and he didn't let that Talon get a single hit off of him. It was very metaphorical of unleashing the demon within, going full scorched earth. I loved the visual that Greg Capullo did of making it look like Batman actually losing and turning into this bat-like creature. He literally goes into Ultra Instinct. This man is like weave, 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 and counterattacking every moment that he could. He saw him as an Elden Ring boss that he had to go no damage on. And he did it with perfection too, in record time. He bashed his face up, blew up a giant hole, and threatened the Talons and all of the court. They're like, I'll be back for you. Don't think I forgot about you just because I'm a little tweaked out of my mind. Deuces. And he got out of there just to recoup and break everything down when he was better. My goat, just like Wally West said in Justice League Unlimited, don't let anybody talk down to you, you are him. Ever since Chip Zdarsky got on this character, he has been the master of aura. I'm telling you, whenever you see any edit, it's because of this version of the character, and of course I'm talking about Daredevil. Now Daredevil always was an aura farmer, but in this run in particular, he was very obsessed, Zdarsky that is, the writer, of making Daredevil say the hardest lines of all time while also having really good art to complement it. So what I'm going to do, to save me explanation time and for you guys actual time, I'm just going to read you guys these moments. He just says banger line after banger line and it just drops you in the middle of a dope splash page. It's like they know what they're doing. It's like they're proper creatives, but yeah, let's go. The first moment is with Kingpin and he's talking about the destruction of property. The Daredevil is done and he's like, not the wisest move for a man with a trial date. And he's like, I'm here to let you know, to let all of you know that I'm listening. Yeah, I'm watching. How are you gonna do that? And even from prison, look at him flip around. I'm going to make your lives hell. But he's like, come on, you're all bluster. All hollow threats. Once you're in prison, you'll be meat. Even though we literally saw in Ed Brubaker's run that that's not true, but you know, some people have selective memory. Maybe, but it's not just me. I gotta control myself. I was about to... My room is about to look... Let me stop. But yeah, he was like, I've spent too many years beating up your goons, your low-level criminals, scared little men with little to gain and little to lose. But these days are gone. I'm coming for you. And he just dropped some smoke pellets out of there. And not only did he farm some aura, he farmed some emotional moments. Peter and Daredevil here, they just had like a therapy session, really talking to each other about their failures, about the things that they couldn't do, and just reminiscing and understanding each other from a, I guess they were kind of like trauma dumping, but they were trying to get each other through it, right? Because Daredevil accidentally killed a man, and Spider-Man told him stories about his fight with Wolverine and how that led to his first and last kill, how he threw a punch over his head, not knowing who was behind him because they activated his spider sense, and he gave it his all thinking it was Wolverine. And how he got so mad at himself, but then we see Daredevil be like, nah bro, I'm just gonna give you a hug, bro. Look at this. Look at these two bros just embracing each other, bro. Good stuff. Really getting to know how their perspective of the city, of the people they love, and how their job isn't exactly going to be all sunshine and rainbows. Both of these people, they know it the best. They probably have the worst lives out of any of the street level characters. At the end of it, he's like, I should feel blessed. God really gave him the best people. Beautiful work. To go back a little bit, there is this whole discussion with Punisher, right? Talking about this one kill that Daredevil did. And the entire thing was kind of situated in a Punisher Max Daredevil Season 2 scenario where Punisher had a person in front of them. They were having this whole ideological talk and he tried to shoot and kill him, right? And in fact, talking about Netflix Daredevil, if you like that show, Zdarsky Daredevil is just for you. Even the way they speak kind of feels very familiar, but let's go through it. He's like, your line is stupid, you crossed it, I'm sure this ain't the first time either. I'm a math guy, Red. See, same mannerisms. I take out one guy, then more good guys live. Sometimes when you and I butt heads, I think about the fact that you're a good guy, but a selfish good guy who just does enough to feel like he's a good guy, who one day may take me down, leaving more twisted people out there killing, ruining lives. It's math. I bank on you not stopping me, on you growing up and finally doing what's necessary. Maybe I'm a fool. Maybe I need to listen to the math. Sorry, Red. And then he just gets shot, which is kind of embarrassing considering he is the firearm guy. He's like still going for the Kevlar shots. I think deep down you want me out there doing what and then Daredevil just starts blasting. Look at this precision for a guy who can't see, that's pretty good. He's like, Frank, do you have any idea at all what I can do? The level of carnage I could unleash with a gun in my hand. The number of dead if I decide to be like you. It's no contest, Frank. You're amateur hour. You're a demon, sure. But I'm the devil. This thing got me spazzing, bro. I am hyped when I read this. I'm not even the biggest Zdarsky Daredevil fan. I love the first volume. Well, the first half of the first volume. The second volume does dip a lot. It does catch itself in the end when, you know, with the christened Devil in White Daredevil, but for the most part, I can never talk any smack on the way Zdarsky writes Matt. It's just beautiful, bro. I just love this. The next one I want to talk about is Daredevil versus US Agent during the King Daredevil arc. And to kind of give you the short of it, he becomes, in this entire Red Fist saga, the King of the Fist. They're an elite warrior clan that is, of course, created centuries ago, as a lot of these things are, and they are the legendary rival of the Hand Ninja cult. And Daredevil just has an army at his beck and call, and a lot of people are going after him because they don't see eye to eye with his methods and the way he's going about it. From an outside perspective, it do be looking like he's wildin', but sometimes you just gotta let it go. In this case, with the US Agent, they didn't. He got set up to go and fight Daredevil. You headed up the Thunderbolts during Fisk's final days. Is this where your heart lies? Throwing in with fascists. If you come with me, maybe I could save you. And he's like, Daredevil, don't need saving, I'm right with God. He's like, if you were, he cut off the lights. He wouldn't have sent the devil. Why is this man clip farming so hard? The aura could only go so far. He makes the first move, a wild one in the dark, the kind of move you make when you know you'll only have one. John Walker doesn't know me, son. He doesn't know that I can feel every contour of him even without sight. He's a slow-moving sculpture that I've run my hands over without ever touching him. He almost had a pause moment, but he said consent. The fight is over, and he catches his shield, and as soon as the lights go on, all of his troops are just knocked out. Focused, no longer rising to the bait. I should drop this man, drop this ball of rage in darkness, but he's one of the worst of us. Authoritarians like John Walker don't understand that all they are is fear. Fear of criminals, fear of changing world, fear of losing power. I need him to see what a man without fear can do. And he starts beating the brakes off of him. Not a single hit was landed on Matt. You don't have any power over me, Walker. You or any of your bosses, you should correct your life in this world before the next one judges you. Goodbye. Yes, dude. And he puts over the wrap on his face too, so you can't see any skin. Even the shield complements his fit. What are we doing here, bro? Walker, you're gonna let him pounce all over you? And from the last time I checked, I could be wrong. This man was a super soldier. Granted, Daredevil did get some boosts here from the fist, but still, he should be way more influenced and know what he's doing with his powers to be more experienced to beat up Matt, but he just doesn't have the sauce. And Matt, he's literally starting an Italian restaurant, so yeah, you know, walk off, king. A character that honestly has been disrespected on my channel and I haven't talked about him nearly enough is Thor. Now Thor, as a god, he is in that weird like Superman Hulk tier, so he is going to have a lot of great fights. And Thor as a character, he's a lot more cosmic usually than those characters. Not saying that they don't get in their bag, there are a lot of great comics where they do that. But Thor comics in general, from what I've been seeing, there are a lot more action-oriented examples that I could pull up off the top of my head, where Thor is just ready for the smoke. Now let's start with the most famous one, with that being the Thor versus Gore the God Butcher fight in the first arc of Jason Aaron's run. And this thing, what makes it really important and just notable is that it shows Thor really pushing his limits. Gore constructed something called the God Bomb, which was strictly very divine in nature. How it works is that it uses the pain of enslaved gods and shoots it out across time. His entire game plan is to kill every god, past, present, and future. It's something that he genuinely believes in. The universe will be better without divine beings. It's an apocalypse of faith. It's not just a fight. And what happens, which is really cool and never really seen before, is that it shows us Thor across 3 timelines: the present, the past, and the future. King Thor, all of these guys had to come together. Thor had to hold 2 Mjolnirs. They had to combine with the All Black. They had to do all of these things to actually defeat him. Gore becomes a god himself actually. He gets corrupted by the very power that he swore to destroy as the God Bomb begins to detonate. In a really cool moment of resistance, Thor absorbs the full power, the brunt force of the God Bomb into Mjolnir, drawing all of the power of every god who ever lived, kinda, basically the ones that he got to. And this page, it just explodes in light, and Thor just channels the faith of the universe, right, into one final lightning strike that obliterates Gore. The gods might not be perfect, but they are needed. As long as people pray, gods will answer, hopefully. The gods in the Marvel Universe might be a bit iffy, but like even when you start to get into plural gods, these kind of characters are very devious to say the least in real life. But what makes Thor look really cool on his part is that he managed to survive and absorb a bomb that's meant to kill gods across all of time. Not through literal brute force, but because he's one of the few people that believes that gods still matter. He stood his ground and he won that battle. The second one I want to talk about is when Thor humiliates Iron Man after Civil War. This is a crazy moment. I've talked about it before. The entire reason why Thor just beat him up so badly is because he created him and Reed Richards, they created a clone cybernetically called Ragnarok of Thor. And that clone ended up killing Goliath, right? Big deal. But what I didn't do is tell you in detail how hard he slammed Tony. And so Tony was pulling up, right? Doing the little formalities here and there, but Thor just gave him a dead stare. He did not care. And then Tony just started yapping, okay? And I'm going to give you the entire brunt of his yap session so you know why Thor was on site, okay? I would probably want to put pause on him too for the audacity of him doing this in front of the god. But let's just give Tony the benefit of the doubt. I haven't read this before video, so let's go through this together, okay? He's like, you didn't seriously think you could pluck Asgard down in the middle of the American heartland and not have everybody from the National Guard to the White House up in arms about it, did you? I mean, yes, we checked and the deed to the land it sits on has been properly paid for, and technically you own it, but things have changed around here while you were gone. It's real simple, Thor. You either work with the government or you're against the government. There's no middle ground. The satellite retcon photos confirm that you're all alone up in that place. We can take it if we choose, or force you to move it. You can do the right thing and put Asgard someplace appropriate while you sign out with the good guys and we get back to work. So, what do you say? Spoiler alert, he says no. He summons a bolt of lightning and he goes off. Yes, things have changed. You have hunted down those we once fought beside, and called comrades, killed or imprisoned those who opposed you regardless of their previous loyalties. Surely this would be offense enough, but you went further, much further. You took my genetic code and without my permission, without my knowledge, used it to create an abomination, an abbreviation, and this you told the world was me. You defiled my body, desecrated my trust, violated everything that I am. Is this how you define friendship? Is it? Is it? Summoning a giant bolt of lightning. This man Tony was stunned just looking at this splash page and this onomatopoeia right in front of his face. What can you do, really? The aura is just off the charts. Well, he could try to play it up. Alright, I can see you're upset by this, but you know you don't have the full story here, Thor. He just rocked him, knocked him completely out of the panel. And then Tony had the gall to be like, I had no choice to do this. I'll apologize later. I was hoping you didn't have to give me this choice. And just repulsor beamed him, thinking that he won off a one-shot, and Thor, standing upright, nothing actually fazed him. And he was shooting all this stuff only to get rocked by the slightest of movements. Like, what was Tony thinking? Look at him, he grabbed him by the throat on the bottom of this panel. Give your orders and the ultimatums to those who choose to obey, or are too cowardly to fight, not to me. Or learn again the difference between a god of thunder and a mortal man in a metal suit. Know your place, Tony. As for your masters, since power is all they understand, tell them Thor says this: if any mortal comes uninvited to Asgard on behalf of those who suppose themselves to powers, within the hour they will learn what true power is. For their own good and yours, go to them and convey that warning. Do not let them forget what a god of thunder is, what that means, Tony. Come on, I know you're smart. And know that your war of brothers is done. I have no interest in becoming involved on either side of the disagreement. I am for the moment neutral, okay? Do not give me cause to reconsider that position. He just lets him go. All lines were crossed that day. His superiors, his ideas, his plans for the future, of course being a futurist. And I have to preface all of this by saying Tony Stark was completely out of character in Civil War. Everything I'm saying is no slight to Tony. I love him as a character. But dude, I hate Civil War Tony Stark. But yeah, I can't blame Thor at all. People on Earth thought Thor was a murderer who killed people who he once saw as friends. Even the people that he didn't kill, he was fighting with killing intent. Thor would never do that to people he swore an oath to be loyal to, people that he would help fight to save the Earth with. That would never happen. And then finally, one really great moment that a lot of people don't talk about is Walter Simonson's run with the fight with the Midgard Serpent. What's really cool and what makes this very legendary, in my opinion, is that the entire story is told through splash pages. One issue, one fight, the dialogue balloons, all of it, pure visual storytelling with these big panels, no cut up between scenes. Just one page is what you get. And it's big, it's explosive, and it's just cosmic in scale. The mythic serpent in and of itself is fated to kill Thor in Ragnarok, right? It's a big prophecy, but Thor must die in battle, but Thor doesn't flinch. What makes this moment really cool is that Simonson really just fully throws himself into Norse myth. There's no Avengers backup, no Bifrost rescues, it's just Thor and his destiny. And the artwork in and of itself in the fight, there's just a lot of pulse, a lot of momentum. The serpent crushes mountains in its coils, Thor breaks its fangs with Mjolnir, he hurls lightning through its heart and screams it into death itself. Both of them collapse and it appears that Thor is dead. But at this moment, he cheated death, but barely crawled from the corpse of the Midgard Serpent. Broken but alive, he simply refused to fall in this moment. And that's what makes Thor so powerful. Why the aura, as I've said before, is off the charts. He's a god who stares down his own fate, knowing that he's going to die, and just doing it anyways, because that is who he is. He doesn't back down. And finally, we have a character that it would literally be a disservice not to mention him, and that is Moon Knight. Now, Moon Knight over the years, specifically like right now, he has calmed down a bit, but he still is aura farming to the max. Jed MacKay has never let this man down, and every single artist that goes onto the main book for the past like 2-3 years, their main goal is to make Moon Knight look as cool as possible. I like this little bluish white filter or glow that they put on Moon Knight's suit. It just looks fantastic. But to start off a bit, I want to talk about his interactions with other main characters, because in this entire video, for the most part, I've been talking about interactions between either grunt characters or not main villains. The first one I want to talk about is his fight with Deadpool. Now, he was in this era where he was trying to hold back a bit, but Deadpool was really annoying him, and this was his first time seeing Deadpool superpowered, and he's like, oh wait, you have a healing factor, I bet. He took out his moon sword, or whatever you want to call it, and he just went to work. I have never seen Deadpool get off-screened like this in my life. It was one panel, and he got rocked. This man was screaming, bro. And at the bottom panel here, when he finally gets out of the funhouse, he's like, man, I needed that, which is kind of base, let's be honest. Deadpool in this situation is kind of like a rage room. You know those rooms where you go to break stuff just so you could like calm yourself down? That's what Moon Knight used Deadpool as, which is actually so disrespectful, it's crazy. But the next one I want to talk about is his fights with Taskmaster. Now, this character, the back and forth between them is very funny, because when he's fighting in person, he will use his signature style, which is, I'm not going to block or anything, I'm going to let you hit me so I can counterattack harder, right? It's this weird kind of fighting style that Taskmaster is afraid to copy, because if not taken seriously, it could lead to his life ending just like that. Another moment is when Moon Knight used his brain. He's like, you know what, I don't want to fight one of the best hand-to-hand fighters of all time. Let me just run my plane straight through your building. Just skip the cutscene entirely. You know those unskippable cutscenes that your parents put you through? Moon Knight found the method. Another cool moment that a lot of people talk about is when he reenacted the raid in Ellis's run, and his entire plan here was to save a little girl, and he was mowing through armies and scorches of people. And one moment that I really liked throughout this run that was very consistent is the fact that a lot of people were talking about, why did he wear white? He's like, that's the fun part, so people can see me coming. I'm not like, I don't know, Black Panther or Daredevil who likes to stealth around and do all that type of stuff. I can do that because I'm trained enough, but the entire purpose of my costume is to make you feel fear from miles away. And in my opinion, from his actions, even in this singular issue, which is one of my favorite Moon Knight issues of all time, Moon Knight number 5, he displays his terror effortlessly. The first excerpt here is when he's trying to save the little girl from gunpoint, and it goes like this. But I love this bat, and you owe me a truncheon. Of course, the truncheon is a little like bow staff billy club that he uses that could shoot a little grappling hook. That breaks. And he's like, you can't kill me. You could kill her, that's true, but what saves your life after she's dead? Everyone already thinks the kid's dead. The loss is accepted. Have you accepted yours? Are you ready to die today? You could use that gun on her, but she's the only thing keeping you alive. Make your call. He takes the gun out of his hand and slams his bat into his face. This man got rocked so hard. Another moment was right after this. One of the guys were trying to run away, and he literally drops his plane right on him and crushes this man to death. And he walks up to him and he's like, listen, where you're going, tell your friends, tell everyone you meet. You tell them all, when you see me coming, run. He's telling all this smack to a dead guy, and the reason why this is really cool is because he can back it up. He throws hands with ghosts. We see it in this run. Later on, dude, this run is actually just dropping gems for really peak Moon Knight. I know I'm milking it a lot, but this run right here by Ellis and the rest of the collaborators in the Marvel Now era is a gold mine for aura moments for Moon Knight. So right here, I'm gonna read it off too. He's finding a serial killer that kills people to take their organs and stuff like that. So, you were killing healthy people for supplies, and he's like, right? I mean, who does all that training and then does nothing useful with their bodies, which is kind of base. If you're going to kill people, might as well make it useful. Be a helpful member to the community. And he's like this. These are people who actually know the names of their muscles, but do they sign up or work or pet into an agency and serve their country? Hell no. Perfectly useful muscles and organs going to waste. Every time I go out on a supply run, I get better. I have to be better. And he's like, so I've got this straight. You go up, you hide, you watch and track fit people, and then you kill them. You take pieces of them down here, you paste them into your body with obsolete exotic medical machinery, and you think this is the best use for their lives and your time and skills. No offense, buddy, but you're a mile underground wearing a white suit and a bag on your head. He's like, fair point, dude, Moon Knight is just based, and you're unarmed, and you're going to die down here. And he's like, I've died before. It was boring, so I stood up. This guy gotta stop, bro. Somebody stop him. The final moment before I go on forever is at the very beginning of Jed McKay's run, where he fights this guy. He's very weird. His sweat is used as a hallucinogenic that can actually mind control people, and his goal is to put his sweat into the water supply so that he can control a giant amount of people so that they can do his bidding and so that he can get money. And Moon Knight, doing a very ballsy play, he gets one of his crescent darts and he gives it to the guy. He puts his sweat on it and Moon Knight licks it. This man, he knew that this man was not going to survive the experience in his head. He's like, you've never seen anything like what's inside my brain. And then he's like, what are you even talking about? And he's like, I'm sure you know about mental illness, but something like dissociative identity disorder is an old hat for you after all, right? You might be able to sustain something like that, but you've never been used to sharing your mind with something like this. Let me show you something new. You who have touched any number of minds, how does it feel to touch the truly alien? The universe is composed almost entirely of darkness, Holly. It's the default state. An uncaring, indifferent, nothing, cold, impenetrable. Little wonder, then, when early men looked up from the terrifying darkness of night, beset by predators and worse, and saw light. Of course, all of this is talking about Khonshu. They worshipped it as a god. Mine is the cold fire of the moon. Mine is the tidal pull on the salt blood beating through your heart. Mine is the silver madness that illuminates but does not warm. Come and worship. And then we just see this giant amalgamation of all that makes up Moon Knight. My brain is moon silvered, lunatic cratered with a god's fingerprints. The deep structures of my mind have been irreversibly changed by communion with an ultra-terrestrial intelligence. This is my poisoned ground. This is my temple, but I take my weaknesses and turn them to my advantages. I take my scars and make them into my weapons, where you see all of his personalities in one empty one. That's not even the guy that he just took, who's going to be in his mind forever. This empty one could be Khonshu, it could be Moon Knight, it could be Mr. Knight, it could be any number of things that we just don't know at this point in time. And then he says Salah, which is really cool because it's Hebrew, right? It's a word that's used to note a pause in music or poetry. And this right here, this guy is literally out of the picture. Moon Knight put him on the back burner. And he's like, there, nice, it's done, it's over, everybody here, you're free to go. He will not recover from this, and he just says, Moon. He is frothing from the mouth. This is literally Aura in one of its most potent forms. But yeah, guys, remember to like, comment, and subscribe, turn on post notifications so you know when a new video goes live, and make sure to leave some of your favorite Aura moments and your favorite characters that I didn't cover in this video down below. And yeah, see you all later. Deuces. Take care.